Okay, this should be the daily breakdown, and today we're obviously going to talk about EDG versus Starhan Royal Club. Don't tune out yet. It was a good series. There was, the Chinese teams actually showed some interesting games. There was no one North American in it, but there was a Korean. So maybe you like Koreans as well. Maybe that's the reason to stay in here. So I'll introduce my guests first of all. So we've got Dexter here. He's from CLG.
Hey,
Well, at the moment, he's from CLG. I don't know if that'll change, but right now he's technically under contract to CLG, so he is the starting jungler of CLG right now. Still in LCS. They
still in
narrowly
LCS.
avoided getting
Yeah,
trampled over by a rampaging Curse Academy horse. Well
yeah, that
done.
was a pretty good series.
My other guest here is Drexxin, who's from China Talk. So, I mean, obviously, I picked the right person to have on the show today to discuss this. And yeah, it'd be interesting to have some analysis from someone who's actually watched the Chinese region. Be a treat for you guys out there who just came off the official broadcast. Okay, anyway, let's go into the show today. So obviously, EDG versus Starhorn Roll Club. What's interesting is I kept my prediction that I still thought EDG would like get it together and they'd beat Royal Club here. Even though I heard on the broadcast a lot of people kept referencing like the most recent record in terms of just games head to head was in favor of Royal Club. I actually think from what I remember, a lot of analysts still kept their prediction as EDG would win Drexen. Like a lot of people were still saying EDG 3-1 or what coming into the series. Did you think Royal Club was better? Did you think EDG was still going to win as they did in LPL?
All evidence pointed to EDG showing up for playoffs because I mean, like I've said, like they've lost very questionable sets before in the regular stage, which you can't really judge them on. Like they went 0-2 against Young Glory and then still, win all the playoffs. They get first place every time. So yeah, it was a little bit surprising.
What
I
about you,
definitely still
Dexter?
kept EDG as my prediction.
Who was your favorite coming in?
I think I predicted a 3-2 either way. I didn't really have a clear favorite for the series, but
Okay.
all I knew is it's gonna be really close. It's not very hard to call because if you go by based on results by group stage, I think EDG was not very convincing because they had like a rough start to the group
Yeah,
stage.
yeah.
So you actually had to go with Royal Club, right? Because Royal showed up in Group B. They actually had great games. Insect showed how good he is, and Uzi showed how he's the best carry in the world, right? So I would, if I had to choose someone, I would have went with Royal, yeah.
No, that good reasoning there. Right, let's go through the games first because we can talk about like the bigger scale things, like whose career is impacted in what way, or how does this affect going forwards. But let's just go game by game first.
Yeah.
So in game one, obviously, like convincing performance by Royal Club, right, Dexter?
Yeah, I think after I saw game one, I was like, okay, I actually think this series is gonna be 3-0 because the way Royal Club played was very convincingly, and EDG doesn't have an answer for that, and it was a pretty storm. Like the game was a storm, so I thought actually that Royal might be stronger than I anticipated there, but yeah.
What did you think of the pick ban Drexen? Because actually, this time, what's funny is we saw like the sort of I would have expected the opposite lanes to happen. Actually, we had Tristana and Jana was on the EDG side, and then Uzi, I, and Zero had the Nami Lucian. And actually, what's funny is even the way the game was going, it seemed like early in this series, EDG maybe they had something in their heads. It's kind of like they didn't play how they normally play in China. They thought like, no, we have to be the aggressive ones early. We have to like try and win the lane or something. What did you think of this approach?
I almost felt like they were testing the water in game one, and I do agree with you. What's actually interesting is Starhorn was the one that were trying to, before entering Worlds, they were the ones that were trying to switch up their playstyle so much and divert those resources, but it ended up being the same Uzi I show. But yeah, with EDG, the only real thing they showed that I would have guessed they saved was Koro's Kale, which didn't even turn out too well. And the really weird thing is that they know that Starhorn Rail Club is very good at early dragons in their region, and yet they still prioritize like their warding near the top. And I thought that was really weird. And then on top of the bad warding, because like they had like a quantity of wards, but the quality was questionable. But the thing that I found interesting is just how much they wanted to contest those early dragons when they were always more than happy beforehand to try to trade for other things and like kind of just let Starhorn get those dragons. So
Isn't that something that people? Okay, actually, this is something in general that I've heard said. What sparked this? Okay, about dragon control was there was a stat they said on the broadcast for the first quarterfinal where they said, oh, like actually TSM apparently had like the best stats for like they got the most dragons in games and they had the best dragon control. And Monty made the point, I think it was on Summoning Insight, he said something along the lines of like, it's because the more passive teams, like for example, like he gave the example of Samsung Blue, but I'd give EDG as well, are willing to give up that early dragon if it means you don't go into that like cataclysmic fight that if you lose it, fucks the whole late game, you know? You'd rather just give up a small scenario there, especially if you're Samsung Balloon, you can literally just trade for the tower or some pressure somewhere else. In general, would you have said that's the approach you thought EDG would take? Was this shocking in that sense that they were willing to contest and go for those dragons?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it was like a too little, too late approach to the way they were handling the game. Like maybe their coaching staff or their team got together and like, you know what, we can't just give these up for free on the world stage, and then they just went out of their comfort zone by trying to contest those that they've never been successful in contesting against Starhorn, and has been like a huge boon in Starhorn's winning record against EDG. So yeah, I would say they definitely went out of their comfort zone there.
So Dexter, yesterday I referenced the fact that since I think Meteos is a really good jungler, I actually said, okay, Meteos is like the exception to that famous rule that Diamond Prox gave us that if you're like a great jungler, you have to play Lee Sin. Because his idea was like obviously ganking and like being able to put pressure on. This epitomizes what the great jungler should be able to do. Clearlove in game one, did he just fall in line with the rule that you're not a great jungler if you suck on Lee Sin? What do you think?
I think yeah, he definitely made the call to jump in there, Dragon, and kind of lost the game there alone. I think he baited his team in, and then he died instantly. He expected a Kale ultimate to follow up, I think. But yeah, his Lee Sin was very underwhelming, and I was like, oh my god, I really hope he doesn't pick Lee Sin for the rest of the series.
So if we go into game two, in game two, actually, if we just start with the jungle matchup again there, Dexter, this time we had the same champions, Kha'Zix, Lee Sin, but it was swapped around now. So we had a Clearlove on Kha'Zix, who's actually a champion you've seen him play a lot. Insec, obviously very famous for his Lee Sin. What did you think of the jungle matchup here?
I think the jungle matchup in general is always... I think Kha'Zix vs Lee Sin is always in favor of Kha'Zix until level 6.
Okay.
And Kha'Zix should definitely win the jungle matchup pre-6, but like based on the one-on-one, you know, you can always have like variables that change the outcome of a team fight or a skirmish or anything, and then if Lee Sin gets one kill, then it's the other way around. Then Lee Sin completely shits on Kha'Zix, but yeah, I think definitely Lee Sin, like Insec on Lee Sin is just, I mean, everyone knows that he's the Lee Sin god, and he actually did some really good things that game, and throughout the whole series, he played a really good Lee Sin, actually, I thought, and showed that why he's considered the best Lee Sin, or was considered the best Lee Sin player in the world. And Clearlove didn't really have much of an impact in that first Kha'Zix game of him, I think, in the second game. So I thought it was
actually, along the lines of Insec, especially obviously his Lee Sin, I actually thought Jap made a good point on the cast. I mean, admittedly, he sort of did it like as a way to explain like what might have looked like a mistake that the winning team Royal was doing, which was when he was talking about Insec. Okay, whenever Insec did badly in Korea, people would always just say like, "Oh, he goes too aggressive, he goes too harm." Like they'd actually call him quite stupid. They say, "Oh, it was a stupid move. Like you should have been more conservative." But really, it's like the point I always make about Samsung White. Like that aggression that sometimes goes badly is the same aggression that when it goes right, you're wow, they're dominating them. Like, you know, what can you do versus that? It's unbeatable. It's like the same thing with Insec. He's going to go for those plays and part of the fact that he makes the plays out of nowhere, like what Jat said there, you either make the play and it works, or in the case of what Jat referenced was that if Insec even cues in on you, then you automatically assume he's going to Insec kick the carry. Yeah. And so even if he doesn't, it immediately makes you react in a certain way where his team must know that's going to happen. Your team knows it's going to happen. And even if he doesn't do it, it forces you to react in a certain sense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it makes sense because every time you're against a Lee Sin and you're sieging the tower, and no matter what happens, if you get queued as a carry, you back off. Like, even if you have the biggest creep wave under your tower, for example, if you get Q as carry, you back off because it's your first reaction. And people know that Insec is so good at that even if someone else gets queued, he still finds ways to kick in carries, right? So if I would get queued by Insec, for example, and I would be playing a mid lane champion, I would immediately just back off, and even if I have to sacrifice something for it, because just too much of the risk, right? And you never know when he's going in. So I think it's a fair assessment from Jeb, actually, and it makes sense, yeah, that people know how Insec plays. He's like this super aggressive player that wants to make the plays, and whenever he lands a Q, he is going in, like, no matter what. And I think the series showed exactly, like, a really great aggression from Insect. Something went wrong, right? But just imagine if he wouldn't have went in for the kicks, and especially he got like so many kicks on Nami this series. It was actually insane. So
I mean, plus in that game, okay, he knows he's not ever going to do damage on Lee Sin. He's going like super tanky Lee Sin, but he's just trying to make the play right. He's just trying to separate the carry, trying to. Boy, you saw it. All the Chinese teams just try and kill the other carry the whole time. It's like kill the AD carry. We must kill the AD carry like the whole time. Are there any flaws to Insec in this series that you saw?
Overly aggressive, I think that's the only thing. But his mechanics on point. I mean, he done it almost every important queue. He made things happen for his team. He did some great kicks, and if he wouldn't have had that aggression that sometimes caused him to die, then I think the series could have turned out either way, actually. And I'm pretty convincing that Insect played a really, like, even if everyone talks about Uzi, but I think Insect outclassed the jungle matchup really hard too.
Yeah.
And he's a better jungler than Clearlove. So if he wouldn't have had that overly aggressive plays that give them the advantage in some cases, then I think, yeah, like I said, EDG is a good team fighting team too, you know, when they get the chance to, but Insect was there and kind of made things work, yeah.
So, Drexxin, in this game too, we can't not mention, well, that's a fucking double negative. We should mention that Uzi went like 14-1-6 on Twitch, which, by the way, as added context, is like extra styling because that is Name's champion. Like,
yeah.
What did you think of this performance here?
One thing I want to point out about that matchup is that this actually works in Insect's favor too. Is that like, you know, like with it's the same with Insect. Like people are just expecting him to execute on that champion, so there's this fear factor of ever actually doing something that could be a risk. I feel like Uzi got away with a lot in that sense too, because like a lot of people are afraid to skirmish against Uzi. So there's a lot of times where he was in unfavorable positions that weren't capitalized on EDG. So he was able to get all that free farm off and like do really well in team fights. And I do think that like maybe just by the way that Starhorn Royal Clubs had to force themselves to communicate, like it's just given them overwhelming confidence on a solo level. Like there's so many little things in that game that pulled off huge advantages for Starhorn Royal Club. Like one of them was actually Zero just continuously pinging, not pinging like in the sense of pinging, but like auto attacking UZ over and over, even though he's so far ahead, and canceling his back over and over, and then having to force him to stay in lane. And then Starhorn was able to like get a lot of pressure on other parts of the map off of that because he's forced to stay in lane just by auto attacking him and canceling his back over and over. So it's like those little individual pieces of like confidence in every asset of Starhorn's play, and I just think that's like awesome, and that's it goes unpunished, and that's why they get so far ahead on their star players.
What's funny is when they had that little video, I think it was after game 3, the one where Zero was making a joke like, oh, because Uzi and Insect can't understand each other, then they can't argue with each other, which is obviously a joke. But actually what's funny is the fact that they can't communicate. It obviously should be a massive detriment, right? It should make it way worse because most teams need a lot of communication, especially to coordinate what they're going to do, because a lot of teams use like democratic shot calling. I actually think in this particular rare example, it does work in their favor in a bizarre sense that, like, think of it almost like a solo queue mode, because in solo queue, obviously, you don't have voice comms most of the time, and you can't actually communicate with people. You're not going to type while you're in the middle of a fight. So there's times in solo queue, if you're actually playing with people who you know are good, not idiots, where you do, if your teammate gets caught and you didn't quite want to fight now, you don't just let them go and go, all right, just leave them. Sometimes you think, right, well, okay, it's a 40% chance we win this fight, but actually I have to just go in on this fight anyway and just go for it. It's almost like that's what they do in their team. Even if Insect goes a bit too far or someone goes a bit too close in, they just sort of think like, well, they don't have time to communicate. So they're just like, right, just commit to it. Let's just hope we win the fight. Like somehow they make it work though.
No, that's exactly how they play too. And actually, it was like really, really terrible in the beginning of the summer split, because Insect would do these things and there'd be like no follow up at all. So you just like feed horrendously in the enemy jungle, but eventually, like he would just do these overzealous plays. But his team was so used to it that they just like followed up and did this crazy shit, and it worked out. Like I still think he was a little over aggressive in this set, but just overall, they've come leaps and bounds into just like adhering to that play style, where they can actually go ham as hell and just have follow-ups because they're just so used to him doing that.
I think he wasn't really the only one. I mean, I think even the support, in both cases, I think FCDF on the enemy team, he did some really aggressive shit too all the time. It's like...
He just went in on so many hooks that were like, I'm not sure you should go in on that one, mate. And he'd be like, fuck it, pressing Q anyway.
Whoever had Flash this game was just going nuts. Like every time Flash was on cooldown again, they just looked for the next opportunity to just Flash hook instantly. It was actually very fun to watch, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think both supports actually played quite well too in the series.
Okay, so in game, oh, actually, the one thing so game 3 we'll move to now. So this was the first win for EDG, and this was obviously the game. That was the game that was like the 54 kill game, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, okay. So in this game, this was the one that the beginning of the game was so bizarre because you would think to yourself, Drexxin, like, okay, thinking of what you know of EDG and the fact that they're getting their heads kicked in every time they fight, well, they're not going to like purposely fight all the time. And instead, they were just like, 3v3s all day, bro. We're just going to keep going. Like, they just felt like from minute 1, right? What was going on?
I think the biggest difference was Clearlove. I think Clearlove was finally being relevant in early games in this game, which caused them to snowball. And Rice, I think Rice ended the game with like 11-3 or something.
Yeah. He's
some ridiculous amount of kills, but yeah, I think the Rice carried that game super hard, and Clearlove was a factor because he got like 2 kills fairly early in the game for top lane, got the Rice rolling, and then I think this was like the story of the game pretty much, that the Rice got big. And yeah, I mean, Starhawk, like Royal Club, had a pretty okay team fighting comp too, but Rice just got too big to handle it.
And I think that early on that the skirmishes were definitely not in Royal Club's favor with their composition. But yeah, the thing that was interesting with Clearlove's Evelyn pick is like this is something he does when he feels like he can't apply pressure, so he just naturally has it playing an invisible champion. But yeah, it was either like a desperation call for him to pick that, or they were just holding it off for so long because he's always been really good on this champion. He played it like once in groups, I think, and this is the only time he's played it in playoffs, but it worked out really well. And I actually think that because it worked out so well, his jungling improved a bit in game 4 and 5, because probably like a confidence thing. I feel like since he did so well, he's like, okay, maybe I can apply pressure in these other 2 games. And then, yeah, he did a really good job at getting Rise huge. And typically him and Koro, when Clearlove actually applies pressure, are very good with their synergy.
I think you saw the same thing what happened in game 3 and game 4 when the matchup was Rise against Irelia top, and usually it's like in Irelia's favor. But I think
was Rumble in game 3.
Yeah, it was Rumble, but in game 4 it was like the same story, that Clearlove had like immense pressure top lane. He played Kha'Zix and Rise against Irelia, and usually Irelia should win this matchup with jungle pressure, but they dove top lane over and over again, and I think what happened in game 3 transitioned into the rest of the series for Clearlove at least, because in game 1 and 2 he had like trouble stepping up, and he was not doing it so well. And then, I mean, the Evelyn pick is very rare, and I think everyone considers Evelyn to be really weak, but I guess it worked out for him. It was the comfort pick, gave him some confidence for the rest of the series, which was really, really important actually. Otherwise, I think this game would have been like a 3-0 sweep.
So, okay, another factor in this game that we have to bring up is that even though EDG won it, I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, that was the game where the game was over, okay? They're taking the base, they're going to take the tower, inhibitor, and then they were like, you know what? Fuck it, let's just fight under this tower. And then the tower was like the MVP of that fight. It did like about fucking 70% of the damage.
It killed 3 people, yeah.
It was
bad. Yeah. I didn't understand that at all.
I mean, the genius of that was that's almost like the only way you could lose. It's like at that point they could have won all the team fights. Okay, at that point EDG Royal Club was on the back foot, so they found a way to die all those people. I think they got 1 kill and then transfer double buffs to like the carry. It's like, congrats EDG, that is amazing. That was unreal. Yeah.
No, that was crazy. I have no idea why they did that. Like, it's like you're a professional team on the world stage. You know the 80 carries down. It's very safe to siege until he spawns. Why would you go deep? I don't know. That was so weird.
It looked like EDG in team fights at this Worlds, EDG in general has been like, well, just choking or something's wrong. Because the thing is, usually in China, they look like one of the most coordinated teams in the team fight. Yeah, Royal Club's really good in team fight. They're chaotic. You know, it's all over the place, just fighting. They're usually really like. Everyone always knows who to focus, and then what is my job here? And, oh, I'm supposed to zone this guy, and that wasn't here at all in these fights, right, Drexxin?
Yeah, like the biggest thing about EDG, what they created in China essentially was this disparity between the old Chinese playstyle and this new one, where they actually make like calculated decisions and slow down a little bit, and that kind of sets them apart from what the other teams had beforehand. And that just didn't show at all. Like they just were extremely sloppy again. So, yeah, it was weird.
Okay, so The problem with that game is because EDG kept giving opportunities where Uzi and Royal Club could come back, even though they won, it wasn't convincing. So it did just look like, okay, EDG, so they got a breather, but game 4, it's going to be over, okay? In game 4, this was like the most convincing win in theory for EDG. This was actually one where it was a pretty good game overall for them, right? There wasn't much that went wrong.
Nope.
Dexter?
Yeah, no, what I said is Irelia got shut down really early. Rice got big. I mean, Klilov got like 3 kills from top lane, diving Irelia over and over again. And then in the bot lane, I think here's the thing. What I think Yuzi, he kind of disrespected it a bit with the Vayne pick. I mean, there's no reason to pick Vayne into Rice and Orianna. It's just suicide. Like, even if you're the best AD carry in the world and are confident, why would you pick Vayne in that matchup? Like, it's already a bad matchup, or like unfavorable matchup. Lucian into Vayne.
It's a skill matchup, yeah.
Yeah. But why would you pick Vayne into Rice and Orianna? You can be the best player in the world, but if the Rice just flashes on you with QW or something, with the Orianna follow-up, you just die. Like, I don't know. I think it was just a bit of a disrespect. And then the fifth got some kills, but the second, someone made a mistake. Like the Insect, you remember, when he was... Like, the fifth was chasing down under the tier 2 tower, and Insect missed a Q. The second he missed a Q, they got 2 towers off it. And then if the fifth loses his tower, then the game is over, because fifth has no way to farm up, and they had no wave clear. Irelia was useless. They couldn't force fights hard enough, because Irelia wasn't really strong or better, like stronger than Ryze. So all they had to do was just sit back and then keep sieging the towers. Royal Club had no wave clear, and the Vayne was really useless that game, so there was nothing to do. And I think it was just a very messy pick and ban phase from Royal without any consideration. I think it was, why would you pick Vayne? I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, it was really sloppy for Starhorn. I feel like it was kind of like a repeat of the second TSM versus Starhorn game in a sense, just because Starhorn's a game that likes to pick skirmishes, and they had a terrible early skirmishing team. And additionally, I've heard rumors from someone that I work with that, like, in Korean solo queue, when Braum and Lucian is picked bottom lane, people just dodge because it's such a rough lane to deal with. So, like, I don't know, that was just like so ridiculously cocky. Like, no wave clear. They aren't playing to their strengths. Like, they just pretty much gave Edward Gaming the game before it started, I feel.
Yeah.
So one of the weird things about
I was just gonna say, I do think Insect did a really good job at helping keep Uzi even early, but like still, like that's not even in farm at least. But then again, that just took off so much pressure, and again, like I really got crushed as a result.
Even though people joked, okay, when Uzi locked in Vayne instantly, like, oh, he's like tilting now, like he doesn't give a fuck. I think actually there's a degree to which that was right, because the thing is, in the other game, he was the one keeping them in the game with like really good play on Twitch, and so it did sort of seem like he was just like, right, fuck this, like I'm just gonna have to carry this fourth game and like get the win that way, you know. But the weird thing about it is that you're right, that is a really bad decision, in as much as, think of it this way, yeah, maybe you carry the game and win it, but if you lose it, now you're going to a fifth game, now they've won 2 in a row, like. That's a really dangerous situation. Meanwhile, I don't think Uzi's had a game that he didn't go ham on in this whole tournament when he had Caitlyn or Tristana or even Lucian. Like, these champions have been all working for him, so it was kind of unnecessary to go with the Vayne, you know?
Yep.
Oh, one other thing before we leave that game. In game 3, Clearlove was like, he played like a man. He made the plays. Yep. In game 4, this was you. His Orianna, like, he's the one who won this game for them. What did you think of him as a... Obviously... This game was where he, in general, started to pick up his play. And in the fifth game, he's going to be very good. So what did you think of him in this series, Drexxin? Because in the tournament, we hadn't seen much of him, right?
Yeah, I mean, his Orianna is very inconsistent. Like, he has really terrible games and he has really good games. So, yeah, he showed up on that game, but I don't know. I can't forgive him too much for his first game on Ori in the set. But, I mean, that was good. He played really well overall for the set. Like, he typically doesn't play that huge carry role. The team usually forces him into a supportive role, even though he's a player that actually like prefers to carry, essentially. And he showed that he does really well when put in that position.
So going into game 5, like, one thing I want to pick up on here, because obviously Name, as we finish discussing the series, will be a topic we have to discuss how he did. One question I want to ask, okay, is in game 5, Name again is on Lucian. Now, I've got a question for you here, Drexxin, because, okay, Name does play Lucian, definitely. We see him play it in LPL.
Did he play Twitch game 5?
I think game 5 he did, yeah.
He
you
played
think?
Twitch in Game 5. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
He
Game
played
5 was the
Twitch.
Twitch one. Okay.
Usually I
So
played just.
okay. Oh, before this then. So in the other games, we saw all this Lucian from Nami, and in the tournament in general, he's always picking Lucian every time it's available. Even though he does play an LPL Drexxin, if I think of Nami and his best games, I'm thinking like Twitch, I'm thinking Jinx. It feels like even his picks reflected the fact that there's some sort of confidence issue here. Because to me, Lucian, if you're a good AD carry, is sort of like when a mid laner's like under pressure and he's like, oh shit, just pick Orianna. Like I don't want to risk it with like an assassin and get killed. Like just pick Orianna, play safe. Like, you know, to me, that's like the AD carry equivalent of the pick. Do you buy into this?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Actually, I thought that when he was doing what he did in picks for the group stage, he was just hiding his carries because holy shit, like his Jinx performance in playoffs was just surreal. But yeah, I guess he just was really unconfident. I think like I think he was actually hiding picks in the group stage. And then like based on his performance, he just was so unconfident just because he was like, wow, I really didn't perform as well as I should. And then he just kind of came back to these safe picks. I mean, it took until Game 5 for him to pull out Twitch, and it wasn't really anything extraordinary either. And we've seen earlier that Jinx can actually. I don't know if it would have been a good pick in any of these games, but I do know that it's good for like the double lockdown. Like you can pull something off with that. But I don't know. I don't think Jinx would have been a good thing to pull out. But I do wish you would have pulled out Twitch earlier, at the very least, or just anything that's not just Lucian spam over and over.
I think
Just
his
because I mean
position-
he's always known for being more of a late game positioning carry, and it
but
was
his positioning
bad.
in Worlds was
It was-
very lackluster.
It was bad. It was really bad.
It was really bad. So I guess Lucian was kind of making up for the fact that he didn't have the best tournament, and he was like, okay, Lucian is a really good pick. It's like probably the best AD carry if you like it does the most, you know, and it's the safest at least. So maybe that's the mindset behind it. And yeah, I mean, obviously it didn't perform well on Twitch in the Game 5, you know.
Like it was one thing in the scenarios. Okay, so for example, Kola had that godly play where he came in the Byron pit, just insta deleted Nami. That's just a great play from Kola. There's nothing you can do there for your Nami. But the play that really defined Name's problems in this tournament, which was mispositioning, which by the way is his strength in China. That's the thing. There's the guy that if you make, he's like deft. Okay, if you make him play the team fights over and over, you look at it and you're like, wow, how are you doing this positioning? Like your intuition of when to move is perfect. And here it was terrible. And so the play that summarizes that whole problem to me was the Twitch play where he tried to catch, I forget who it was, might have been Rise actually. He tried to catch the guy just outside the dragon pit. And he got onto him, he bladed Rune King, he went in with stealth, and then they just instantly locked him up and deleted him. So that even when, like, there wasn't even time to click on the lantern, you know, like he could have gotten out that play, but there wasn't time. Like they were all focused on him and he couldn't perfectly position there. What do you think of this, Dexter?
Yeah, I mean, even like the biggest misplay I have in my mind was when he was playing Lucian, right? You remember the scene when Yuzi played Twitch and he got a quadra kill and he carried the game super hard in game 2? When they were chasing down, he was just there and clicking auto tag on the Ken minion, and then he was the reason why they lost that. It was like, oh my god, like this guy is famous for his positioning and everything, and how can he? I think it was choke, honestly. Like,
no, it must be.
It must be choke. Like, why would you stand there, attack the auto, like the minion, and then just to get deleted and then give Twitch 4 kills? And I was like, oh my god, this guy's not having a good tournament. So
I didn't even feel like I was watching Nami this tournament. It just
no,
a different player.
This is what I want to go into now, because the Nami topic. Because what we'll do now is we'll do like the Royal Club side of it now, and then to end on a positive, we'll talk about the Royal Club side afterwards, and we'll do the Edward Gaming part now. So it's like we'll negative part first. So if we talk about the Nami issue, here's the first thing to say: it's that this is choking. That's the problem that I think people aren't understanding. It's not that this is a bad player, okay, who just isn't good, and that we've now put him against some good players and we've discovered he's not good. That doesn't work, because the thing is, if he was a brand new player and we'd never played a tournament, okay, but this is someone who's played 4 seasons in China, many tournaments, many pressure games, many playoff games. Imagine that for people who are in the West, okay. Imagine someone had been in the finals of 4 straight LCS splits. 2 of them with like an underdog team, and then 2 he's dominating and he wins the LCS splits, okay? This would be a player who, even if he went to Worlds and sucked, you wouldn't be like, well, I'll just look at Worlds there and I'll ignore everything he did in LCS. You'd be like, okay, your first thought would be, why doesn't he play at Worlds like he does in LCS? That would be the logical thought. So that's actually how I think you have to look at this. Like, it's not that he sucks, it's that he choked. Now, listen, that's a key character flaw. Maybe going forwards, we'll find out that he chokes when he's not in chat. I don't know what it could be. That's a real storyline you have to ask, right, Drexxin?
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, the thing is like, the like 80% of the people you talk to won't have the context of that. Like, and they won't care to have the context of it. Like, people aren't going to go watch China games to like validate their opinions. They're just gonna like be like, oh yeah, he's shit, and I'm gonna believe that, and I'm not gonna sway my opinion. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, the evidence is there. Like, you can't deny his performance that he's had. Like, he's just had a bad Worlds, and exceptionally bad Worlds. I'll add. Like, I feel like Uzi like took all the things that Name was talented for and just like absorbed it into his own play, like with his like split second micromanaging from like dodging skill shots and stuff. And I was just like, it was just really disappointing. But no, people aren't gonna care enough to sway their opinion. Like if they want to believe that Name's shit, they're gonna believe that Name's shit because they're not gonna go back and watch all these Chinese VODs to prove themselves right or wrong. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
they don't really care about that logic.
I mean, Dexter, I'm going to guess the only LPL games you in general watch was like if there's like a final or it's like the playoffs and you see the
I watched
VOD or
playoffs. Yeah.
okay, and then maybe you watched the regional as well or something. So, okay, the reason I'm asking you that is because I know you must have watched some, but you probably haven't watched that much. So, have you seen enough of Name in China to think that this is unusual? Did you think he was overhyped after seeing Worlds? What do you think?
Yeah, I watched some LPL playoffs, and I was like,
I
when
mean,
he
I
played
think you
Jinx,
have some experience with like overhyped AD carries who like, people say it.
Wow.
yeah, I do. No, just kidding.
Keep going, keep going.
I watched some LPL games, and I think I watched some Jinx games of him, and his way of dodging skill shots on Jinx is like insane. Like this guy, what he does, he sidesteps like skill shots and everything. Very, very good. And I thought he was like super good. I actually thought he was like the best lady carry coming to this tournament. But yeah, I think if he goes back to China and then maybe he will slack a bit, but I think he's gonna pick it up again. And I still think he's like a super good ID carry, but he just didn't have the performance. And just judging from what I saw in LPL, I could see that this guy is like really, really talented and has insane team fighting. But yeah, it didn't really show up at Worlds.
Because I have a way to like when these sorts of scenarios happen. Part of what gets me mad isn't even the opinion people have; it's when the logic they use isn't very consistent. So I give the reference point there because I know people care about LCS. Like even if Cloud9 sucked at a World Finals, okay, like they weren't that good at the Season 3 World Finals, to be honest. They were still awesome at home, so we all acknowledge they're a great team and they're definitely one of the best ever from NA. And as a result, up there with the best teams in the world, even if they didn't initially show it, okay. There's a better example in history than even this. So right now, everyone who's watching this broadcast, especially new fans, are going to be like, Samsung White is amazing. Samsung White is the best team in the world. Dandy is a god. Mate is a god. And they're going to be like, yeah, this team is amazing, right? Here's the thing. Yes, right now they're having an awesome Worlds, but they're the team that famously came to last year's Worlds as, to some people, the second favorite team because they were probably the second best Korean team on paper, and people thought they'd have a chance to potentially win. They didn't get out of the group stage. What's funny about that is people always remember Dade because he was in a group with Expect and Alex H and ManCloud, so he did get shown up okay. But the other guy in that group who did really badly was actually Mata. Mata did really, because at the time everyone was saying like, this is like the new Mad Life. This guy's the best support player in the world, and he had a really bad Worlds. But here's the key thing to make: it's not that he's good now because of what's happening at Worlds now. Imagine White hadn't qualified for this Worlds now somehow. Mata was already probably the best support player ever because domestically he'd been to 5 semi-finals of OGN, won one, been to the finals twice. That record at home is that incredible that like even an incredibly bad Worlds, and his was even worse to some degree, couldn't overcome like the stuff you accomplished domestically. That's what made you the great player. Now, if you'd have done something good at Worlds, that would enhance it, obviously, but it's possible to still do enough. I mean, you could see these examples in sports, obviously, where sometimes a player is amazing in the regular season, but he never wins the championship or something. In general, have I stretched this example too far? Like,
No.
does it still hold, Drexxin? What do you think?
No, I mean, I think if we're talking about performance in like a regular season within your own confined area versus playoffs, then you can make the case that it really doesn't matter what your performance is because you're not playing in playoffs. But on terms of the world stage, I think it's a completely different scenario because you've already proven yourself to get to that point.
I mean, if I take what you just said there and give some context, okay, this isn't the same as when I will use the logic that Link actually isn't like an elite mid laner because I've always seen in playoffs, actually, he's choked a lot of times and he just doesn't play up to the level you see in the regular season. That's very different from if Link had won LCS and then went and had a terrible Worlds. I'd actually then have to say the same thing I said before. Well, he can obviously do it in LCS, and under pressure he has performed. So why isn't he now? Whereas actually, at the moment in LCS, someone like Link hasn't really given us a reason to think that he's elite level, you know. He's a good player who has good regular seasons, but he hasn't shown it. Whereas actually, here's the thing. Name has literally been the MVP of 3 LPLs in a row. It's not like he was just being carried. He was the star of the team that's winning these. As we go into Edward Gaming now, I've got a point to make, but we're going to have to segue into what sounds like a critical point here. Because you're going to think Uzi just won the series. He's playing awesome. He's done this whole tournament. To give the same logic, Drexxin, I actually have to sort of slam Uzi and lessen his accomplishments. And it goes like this. Uzi has only been the best AD carry at like 2 tournaments in his career, the 2 Worlds.
Yep.
In domestically in China, he was always considered worse than Name. His teams were always much worse. Uzi has never been in an LPL final. Name's been in all of them. Like, actually, what's funny is domestically, it's like the mirror image. Like over there, that guy his level is never this good in China, right, Drexxin? He's
I mean,
good.
yeah, he pulls off some flashy plays and stuff, but no, it's not this level of domination. And it's a shame because I would have loved to see EDG perform at this Worlds with Name at his peak, which clearly did not happen.
Because that's my problem, is that I'm loving what I'm seeing from Uzi here, and it's definitely making me think he has the potential to be a great, great player. But actually, his problem is he could even win Worlds, and he still has work to do back home to establish himself as a great player. Like, you can't only be good in 2 tournaments. Toys from season 2, like that doesn't work. Like, here's the problem: when we're talking about these players, we're talking about the greatest of all time. We're not talking about good players, okay? These are all good players. The point is, Toys can't be the greatest mid laner of all time because he only was that great in 2 tournaments. Likewise, Uzi can't be the greatest AD carry of all time. I mean, maybe if you like super hard carry this whole tournament and beat Samsung White, maybe that would almost be enough. But you have to have a body of work, you know. It can't just be 2 tournaments there. So I think we've made the point there anyway. If we go on to the positives, yeah?
This applies to many players, no?
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I know you like Froggen a lot, but if you go by history, like success, right? He has been good in OGN, and then in Season 3 and Season 4, like, he picked it up again. Like, would you consider him the greatest mid laner of all times, or like
no?
just
Faker is.
Faker is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think Froggen's, but for the same reason, actually.
Froggen's good.
Froggen's up there because he's always been consistent in his own region. He's always had success. He's always found ways, even on bad teams, you know. So similar logic, you know. It's not like it's a different logic because I like Froggen, you know. I apply it the same way. Like, for example, until recently. So with Froggen, the thing that made Froggen the best Western mid laner, okay, is that he was able to overtake the others by longevity and like consistently being great. But if someone had come to me at the end of Season 2 and said, I think Alex Ich is better. Now, okay, I actually think Froggen was a better player, but I just said, you know what? I'll have to give it up to you. Actually, Alex Ich has had more big game performances and he's won more tournaments. And okay, he's got the edge right now. That I have to give him the credit that the body of work is better for Alex Ich at that point in time, you know. I think the key thing here is you have to decide what your criteria is, then just apply it evenly to everyone and don't have biases, you know. So if we go forwards, a great storyline for Edward Gaming here, and for Royal Club rather, wasn't just the Uzi story, which has obviously been the story of the tournament. It's like Insec famously has had these matches where he's been 2-0 up and he's lost them. So the one that everyone remembers is the OGN final. But actually, people forget OGN Spring this season. They were 2-0 up on Shield. And then I think it was game 3, or it might mean game 4, was the one where it was like they'd like 90% won the game and they ultra mega through and then they lost the season. So he has this in the back of his mind. Okay, if I'm up 2-0 and they come back 2 games, like, I'm probably not getting out that 5th game. So you would think to yourself, okay, finally, you're going to see Insec a bit tentative. He's going to be a bit hesitant. So like a man, because listen, look at this guy. This guy is a man. He just goes, you know what? This has always failed for me in the past. I'm only usually really good on Insec and on Lee Sin and Kha'Zix. Like, you know what I'm going to do? Fuck it. Like, I'm in China. I'm a Chinese jungler now. China, send your spirit to me. Send me the power, the energy. And all of China sort of meditated and got into a state and the vibration level. And then the spirit bomb collected for Insec to lock in Jarvan and just be like, this is Chinese League of Legends. Right, Drex?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, no, it was great because he was hovering over both and he's just like, oh, I got to do it. I got to lock in the Jarvan, man. I got to represent my region.
And he did it right as well. He used Cataclysm to lock up Name a whole bunch of times.
His job was really good.
Right.
It was good,
His job was really good, I have to admit. He did all the right stuff, and I think Jarvan really, if Jarvan wouldn't be in such a weird place right now, I think it fits insect style perfectly. It's just like you have to be aggressive as Jarvan. Like if you're passive as a Jarvan and don't jump in, you don't do anything. And whenever he saw the opportunity, he just EQ'd and ultimated. He didn't really care. Even if his team wouldn't follow up, he would still go for it, you know? And yeah, I think he did really good with Jarvan.
And that was also an example of like the insect Lee Sin factor that I was mentioning that Jat said before. Sometimes he would EQ in, do his ultimate, and you'd think like, right, well, the other team will just turn on him now and kill him on his own. But the other team were like, get the fuck out, they're coming, they're gonna get attack us. Like, and they assumed it was an attack. You know, they don't know that he's going ham on his own. So actually, it's like can't lose in that scenario somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's that individual confidence. Everybody's scared of their members, like because they're renowned for doing certain things. But that again, on the Jarvan point, it's also something that's very good with Royal Club, just historically, because the past two junglers have been very largely Jarvan mains, KMI and Lucky, that have performed on large stages.
So in this tournament, okay, people are gonna. I already can tell you what the storyline will be for the semi-final. There'll be a video by Riot, and everyone will be like, "Uzi is in his second straight Worlds semi-final. He's going for the title this time." Like, you know, we already know that's the way it's gonna go. It's true,
Yep.
but obviously it's a very different team from last year and different circumstances to get there.
Yeah.
How do you actually judge like going forwards, Royal Club Drexxin? Do you believe now from seeing this? Are they going to the finals?
I don't think so, but I don't know, man. I didn't think they were going to the finals last year either. I didn't even think they were going to make it to Worlds last year, so it's really hard to determine. Like, Royal Club has just, like, the strangest, like, graph of performance throughout a year. It's just ridiculous. So, it's really hard to determine.
I mean, Dexter, I know that when you see an aggressive hard carry AD carry, like carrying the game, your natural instinct is like, everyone jump on board. Like, this guy's going to carry us to victory. Like, I believe in this guy. I know I have unwavering faith.
Oh my god.
So you believe Royal Club's going to the final?
Based on Shield's performance and from what I saw right now, I think Watch is gonna be playing a really, really big part of that.
Yep.
If Watch doesn't perform up to Insect's level, I think they will straight up lose and Royal will go to the final. But I think if Watch can keep it together and can bring out the regional Watch, like he carried his team to regionals, to Worlds, right? He was doing very well, but we haven't seen this in Worlds so far. But since it's a best of 5, I have to give it to the Korean team always, because I think a Korean team will always come ahead in the best of 5. So I don't know. I will give it to Najin Shield in hope that Watch will perform. So I think they're gonna lose against Najin, yeah, in the semis.
I mean, the Insect storyline alone is beautiful there, because it's like Insect was like thrown away by Korea, and now he's coming back like, I'm back, motherfuckers. I'm in the semis now. Like, he's like, the cow, what up now, son? Who stayed in KT now, son? Like, I'm here, I'm back. Plus, what's great is, it's not even like, here's the thing, it's not even like Insect, it's not even like Korea is wrong. Insect hasn't gone and fixed any of his problems. He just went, it's like he's a kid with a bad attitude, and they were like, you can't play on this team, you know, like you're cancerous, you're spoiling the attitude of these people. So he just went and found a team of other people who have really bad attitudes, and he's like, we're going to be the badass gang, we're just going to beat all your asses. And they just come back and it's working for him. And so, yeah. So, okay, let's talk about tomorrow's match, because here's Drexxin, breaking news that came out just before this show went live. Oh my god, WWE. Like, imagine the stage is set, Drexxin, okay? Like, the ring is there, the entrance, you know, imagine White Shield come down to their music. I'm imagining something like, probably like, what type of music would they have? Like Late in the Evening, I think, would be their theme tune or something. Like, they come down, like they cruise down, or like Somebody Save Me, like the Smallville intro. So they come down to the ring, they posture, they do their posing, they wave the American flag or whatever they do in wrestling. They get into the ring and they're ready for like the fight. You know, they're like leaning on those ring posts, the belt, the buckle, I believe they call it, the turnbuckle. As they're losing like that, right? Everyone's waiting for the OMG music to play, okay? But suddenly, the OMG music plays, and then there's a masked man, and then like JW or whatever that guy's like, oh my God, who is that masked man? Who is it? Is it Dada 7? And then he takes off the mask, and it's Cloud, and he's like, it was me all along. Not in White Shield. Cloud is here. to play for OMG tomorrow. Zero alarm clocks. The hype is real. Drexxin, was this all just a rope-a-dope? Were they playing possum? Was this the secret weapon?
It's funny because I tweeted sarcastically about this like all week or like the entire times during Worlds, but I didn't think it would actually happen. I really wish they would have brought Cloud in for group stage experience because Cloud is one of those guys that's been ramping up as a support, and I feel like it was like it's bad to take him out and bring him back in, but I still think it can't possibly be worse than Donna. So
See, the other thing to imagine it Drexxin is like it's like the spy slash cop action movie. Okay, Cloud, listen, they kicked him out the team. He was done with it. He moved on with his life. You know, he got a wife and he moved out to the woods and he's in his cabin chopping woods. And then all of a sudden he hears a sound in the background. A chopper comes along. And out comes a service agent, right? And it's actually cool. And he says to him, the Koreans are going to beat us. We need you, man. And he's like, I told you, I'm never going back to that life again. It's not for me. Don't you remember what happened? Don't you remember?
Oh my God.
Cloud, eat you. He's like, and they're like, if you don't come, a lot of good Chinese players are going to die that day. He's like, God damn it, okay. And then in he comes, you know, and now we're going to see Cloud play. What do you think, Dexter, of Cloud playing?
Yeah, I think Cloud is gonna be the hero that OMG needs to beat Najin. If
Really?
anyone can beat Najin, it's gonna be Cloud. Yeah.
Do you think they actually can win the series, though? Does this change things?
Yeah, I think not having a support that goes on a 20-kill feeding spree, that I mean,
That does help, right?
that actually
it
hits
does help,
abilities.
I mean, yeah, that actually. I've never seen Cloud play, to be honest. I have no idea, but from what I can tell, is people have been saying that he's pretty solid. He's pretty good, and yeah, I think based on Najin's performance, I'm not impressed at all. I thought they looked pretty lackluster, and they got stomped by Alliance in that one game. So they could have potentially lost 2 games against them. Cloud9 won against them, and even when they came up first in their group, I think OMG has a chance if Najin Shield didn't improve. Yeah, if Watch still does not perform up to his level or up to the level he used to perform to, then I can see Najin losing that game. But like I said, Korean was a Chinese team, best of 5. I think Save is gonna carry the games. Yeah, so I would go with like 3-1 Najin.
The worrying thing is, I actually kind of agree with you. Like, this actually is a factor that I think makes it like now. I was absolutely certain White Shield would win when they had the Dada 77 guy. Like, it wasn't even a concern for me. Like, at most they could lose a game because of just sloppiness and letting their foot off the pedal. Oh, Rivington's here apparently. So in this scenario though, with Cloud, I don't think OMG will win. Like, I wouldn't say they're the favorite, but I now think it's maybe like a 40-60 OMG. Like, I think they can win this series. Like, they're going to win. I guarantee they win games. That's what I think. Like, it will be messy, scrappy. Actually, the funny thing is, with Cloud, OMG is exactly the sort of team you wanted to see versus that, like, late game style of Najin White Shield. Like, think of what Alliance was able to do. And Alliance aren't a super ham early game team. They were able to almost beat White Shield twice just with early game aggression and making like advantage, pile it up, keep the pressure on. If OMG can do that, they can definitely win games in this series. I think this is going to suddenly this has transformed into potentially the best series in the playoffs.
I also think that going versus Save is significantly closer of a matchup than Wicked versus Save, so that's also a huge factor. But the interesting thing about this matchup too is, like we say, like which Najin White Shield will show up, but OMG is like kind of similar in that fashion. They're both teams that have absolutely ludicrous skill variance. And like OMG on a good day and a bad day is completely different. But I mean, they won't be having like Namis that are like alting corpses or whatever now. So I mean, that's like a huge boon to the team. So I guess like they can only get so bad now with a replacement support. At least that's what I hope.
And also, by the way, even though I'm getting ahead of myself, if OMG was to win that series, oh my days, the storyline that would set up for the semi-final Drexxin. Like, the revenge storyline there would just be beautiful. I can't even wait if that was to happen.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm getting sick of that playoff match personally, but I mean, it would be great for storyline and stuff, yeah.
Okay. I think that's pretty much everything we have to talk about here. Do you have any final words, Dexter?
Not really. I think we covered everything what we wanted to talk about this series. So, yeah.
Thanks to people who like make PCs and like make like shit that
Oh, yeah.
makes your muscles bigger and all that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for sponsors, obviously, like iBuyPower, Razer, and all the stuff. I love them, of course.
Yeah, we all
So,
love them.
and,
So, for
and
giving
of
you a
course,
life and food.
thanks to them. Thanks to all the fans who tune in and everything, of course. And I can't wait for more salty Twitter comments telling me I haven't been at Worlds. So yeah, keep on coming.
You were at Worlds last year, though, so you're better than all junglers who've never been to Worlds, Dexter. There we go. I've saved you using their logic. Hey, right, end the show. Just end it there. Just end